and welcome to the Daily Dialogues. We are really excited to have Mr. Ashutosh Bhadoria with us. He boasts a thriving career in FMCG and dairy space, spanning more than 3 decades. Ashutosh ji is an expert in manufacturing, procurement, and supply chain management. Ashutosh ji is currently part of Wockhart's procurement function, where he continues to drive excellence through its comprehensive understanding of processes, technologies, and continuous improvement. Welcome to the Daily Dialogues, Ashutosh ji.
Hi, Prashant. It's my privilege to be part of this platform. So thanks for boarding me in.
Ashutosh ji, I have known you for a while now, but for our audience, why don't you share where did you grow up? And one question that I really want to ask you, how did you get introduced to the dairy sector and what has kept you in dairy or around dairy for such a long time?
Right, Prashant. So when I talk about dairy, probably we all grow up using dairy products. So that's something which is a very, very basic thing while you grow up. And I have also got a fond memories on how I was exposed to milk or milk products in my childhood. So I was born and brought up in Lucknow. And I remember the days when we used to get milk on from Parag. So Parag was the local cooperative operating out there. The days were there when we used to line up there in the small milk booth. So we used to get milk at that time in glass bottles with a very, very tender foil, blue colored and red colored crims. So very loose also. So I think they had certain identification. Blue was for toned milk, red one was for standard milk, etc. So that was the first memory which I have about exposing to milk.
Yeah.
And those were the days when poly pouches were not there in the market, and the glass bottles were something which was there, and that too on the big cities like Lucknow in Uttar Pradesh. The smaller towns never had that benefit also. And I was staying with into a campus which is a Raj Bhavan here. It's a governor's secretariat, and my father was working there. So we used to also have a summer capital in Nainital. So that was a hill station, and I remember those 2 months while we spent there. So the only source of milk which was available was a man used to carry a 40-liter can down from the foothills 4 kilometers up, and he used to give us through measuring 1 liter into the small containers we used to bring in, and that's if you are there at 8 a.m., you will get it. Otherwise, for the full day, you will not get any supplies of milk.
Yeah.
So those were the challenges which were there in milk at those times. So those were the days while we you can say had milk, and milk was, you can say, subject to getting it on the timing.
Yeah.
So if you miss that time, then probably it was very big challenge that you will get milk available at your home.
Yeah.
Then as you grow up, etc., then we remember the college days, etc. So I still remember that brand Anik spray. So that was the milk powder every student used to keep in his room. So whenever you wanted tea and other things. So those were the early memories of milk which I associate myself. And fortunately, I enrolled into one of the dairy engineering program at Itawa. So those were the early exposure to the milk there, the college laboratory where you started with the fat test, the Gerber method, and other things. So those were the first, you can say, exposure which you associate yourself while into the dairy. And I still remember I was quite fancy to the dairy technology books. The initial writers were Sukumar Day.
I have it here.
The engineering book from Tufail Ahmad. So those were the first, you can say, stepping, you can say, stones into the dairy as I consider myself while I approach the dairy industry. Fortunately, after passing my engineering, I joined Glaxo at their Aligarh plant. So that's how the journey began. And for probably I'm there for last 24 years in this dairy industry, and I've thoroughly enjoyed my journey.
Yeah, I think it's really excited, and a lot of things resonates, because I also had some of my initial days. I have lived in Lucknow. I was actually also lining up for Parag's at Parag booth. But by the time I was there, it was pretty much poly pouches. But I do remember you had to line up for those. And I remember buying a red color pouch with a sun on it. But I'm not sure if it's still available, not available. But yeah, I can Yes, very coherent. One thing that you mentioned, like your initial introduction was with Glaxo. Um, for me, I remember Glaxo from my childhood days. They were more like a pharmaceutical company. So, what were they actually manufacturing, and what was your role at this organization?
Glaxo was known as a pharmaceutical company, but they had got a family product division which handled brands like Complan, Glucon-D, Ferrex, etc.
Okay.
So, and the unit which I joined at Aligarh was part of the family product division. I joined them in around 1994, and that was a very time while they were trying to divest from the food. So, they were trying to concentrate on their pharmaceutical business, and this family product division they divested, and it was bought out by Heinz within 6 months of my joining. So probably my most of the career with them, I spent almost 25 years with them, and to Kraft Heinz, which was the later name while Kraft merged with Heinz and all those things.
Yeah.
So it was a good journey. 24 years into 24 to 25 years into their supply chain, starting from manufacturing, then into planning. I did a couple of ERP implementations along with them, moved into logistics distribution functions also, and then into the procurement, because procurement was something which was a big spend on them. And while I was stationed at the Aligarh factory, milk was one of the biggest spent item with the Kraft Ice. And so initial journey started into milk by actively, you can say, looking into the milk collection process. And then I moved to Mumbai in a larger role of supply planning and co-manufacturing. Later headed manufacturing, headed the procurement function. And that was a very, you can say, interesting journey and very enriching journey for me.
Yeah, I think like when you mention procurement and that too in Uttar Pradesh, I can paint a picture. Given the uniqueness and distributed nature of Indian dairy, or specifically when you talk about the Western Uttar Pradesh as well, how you approach procurement for dairy in this particular region, and what were the challenges and opportunities that you saw in this particular region? Well, I think like one question that should relate to it, like how different it is from other let's say agri commodities.
Okay. Procurement, yes, as you rightly said, it's a you can say a very difficult domain in milk when you compare with the other commodities. And milk is you can say one of those activity of procurement which normally has not been associated as a general procurement. Normally, all the companies, whether they may be the multinationals or the Indian-owned companies, probably they keep milk procurement as a separate function and general procurement as a different functions,
Okay.
right? And the reason which we have seen is that milk procurement is considered to be a very unique set of activity, and apart from the procurement activity, it is, you can say, a set of operational activities
Yeah.
which are more like running an operations, like running a individual milk collection centers, arranging for inward transport, arranging for the utilities of chilling and transporting back to the factory, arranging for the vehicles, and getting all those utilities in place so that the milk is collected on time and sent to the factories on time. So it's not a normal procurement where you just raise a purchase order to the vendor, and the vendor, you can say, will be supplying against that order. So it's something where it is right from the scratch. You own up each and every activity. You own up the milk, you own up the transportation, you own up the chilling and preservation, you own up the safe delivery back to the processing plant.
Yeah.
So this is a full set of activity, and that's why it has been, you can say, kept aside as a you can say a separate function of procurement,
Yeah.
not on the general procurement, but probably that limits certain, you can say, benefits of general procurement flowing into the milk procurement, because
Mm.
of the enrichment which the general procurement has gone through with the standard SOPs, policies, and etc., which because of the constraints and limitations of operating into distant geographies, the milk procurement was not benefit with them.
Yeah.
So probably it's a high time that it gets merged, although with all those limitations and constraints which milk procurement has because of the different nature of operations.
Yeah, I think like this brings us to the next question, because as you already mentioned, there are certain limitations and challenges with the milk procurement. And I can imagine, given like you were working with the family food unit, where like ensuring that the quality of the product arriving for the for or the ingredient that is arriving for further manufacturing has to be of a very, very good quality. How did you solve some of these challenges? Because like milk has a perishability problem, milk has a storage problem, milk also has a bacterial load problem, milk also has the contamination and adulteration problem. How did you solve some of these challenges, and what strategies did you utilize to ensure that you have a better connect with the supplier or the farmer, I must say?
So when you talk about quality, I think the quality starts from the raw materials which you use.
Yeah.
It's a function of raw materials, the processes, and the controls and checks which you have into the you can say gamut of procurement or
Yeah.
processes or distribution of your product. So when we talk about ensuring the quality, then probably the best and the you can say the safest way is ensuring the origin from where the milk is coming from. So here lies the expertise of the procurement team who are into the ground, and they will be, you can say, the best judge on ensuring the right source of milk. So they will be scouting for the milk sheds, reaching out to the farmers, villagers, arranging for the facilitators, and then based on the potential, submitting the report on how to collect milk from that particular area. Then comes in the infrastructure part on how the infrastructure has to be built in, and probably the best way is to use the standard template where you know about what are the standard practices of unloading milk, chilling milk, preserving, and then transporting. So if you have, you can say, standardize that model, probably that benefits into you can say maintaining a continuity in your business by uniform practices which are there in your system. So once these two steps are taken care of, you have the right source, you have the right plant and infrastructure there in the plant, at the milk collection center, then probably it helps a lot into ensuring that the first leg of your quality is ensured and you are providing a consistent raw material to your product. Then the role comes to the factory where they will be, you can say, converting them into the various products and distributing to the customers. So when I talk about the world-class product containing, you can say, the best-in-class quality or deliverables and consistently or across the decades, etc., probably you can say the magic lies into the processes, the you can say zero deviations, and the controls and checks which are there in the processes, which will be, you can say, implemented in the right spirit and monitored for all the loopholes and rectified from time to time. So that's how the things will be, you can say, controlled.
So, like I get correct what you're saying, but like let's go back to the raw material part. So let's imagine you started in 1994, and like you guys were working continuously on ensuring that milk procurement or the like supplier, like do you see improvement on that side? So like and like you are still part of the dairy, like somehow do you see there has been an improvement in the quality of the raw material that you procure from that particular location over the years?
Yes, yes. I think the last 2 decades have been very, very improved, you can say, in terms of the milk quality and collection. And the role here is mainly because of the infrastructure which has improved, the sense of, you can say, the quality which has now percolated down to the farmers, although it was always there with the manufacturers, etc. But it takes time and lot of insistent, you can say, persuasions down the line, training the staff, etc., which is a time-taking thing. And probably at some point of time, the model has also changed. So when I talk about the early 90s, etc., the milk was more or less being controlled by certain agents. So the distribution of collection was confined to certain agents who were collecting from the milk. There were carriers, there were petty bulk suppliers, there were bulk suppliers, and the factories were sourcing from those guys into their plants. Now, as the model changed, and then probably the breakthrough, which I can see in Uttar Pradesh, was somewhere around 2005. So people started investing into developing milk collection societies. Although Parag was doing it for a long time, but the private players then when they started bringing milk analyzers into the villages, and then started you can say on the spot testing, which gave a lot of confidence to the farmers on what is the, you can say, true value of the milk which they are pouring it at the collection center. So those were the small steps, and the direct farmer collection gradually increased. I can know in my company also between 2005 to 10, so we were able to at least have 25% of the milk directly coming in for the farmers, eliminating the channels through the agents and petty bulk suppliers, and ensuring that the milk was, you can say, directly not getting stuck into the middlemen. So you lose money, you lose time, you lose the quality. So when you have multiple tiers into your procurement setup, so the direct procurement has definitely helped. If I see in the past, the infrastructure was also lacking. The electricity was not there. There were most of the centers were working on DGs. The electricity setup has worked more. The quality of diesel generators have also improved a lot. The noiseless ones, etc., into the villages have come in. The efficiencies have improved. The villages now have bulk coolers. Earlier, they were all working with the plate type chillers where the ice water was being used. They used to have ice labs to chill the milk. The stringent, I think, norms on chilling the milk below 4 degrees has also helped the government, FSSAI, enforcement, etc., and putting up the guidelines, etc., to ensure that the milk has to be chilled up to 4 degrees has helped, because I've seen the days when the milk was 8 to 10 degrees into the tanker and then traveling for 2 hours, 3 hours, etc. So those were the little steps which have been, you can say, put into place, and eventually has helped into ensuring a better quality.
Yeah. So, like, now we have talked about something like from that you saw in 2005, it was 1995 you mentioned, or 2005?
2005.
2005. Yeah, so it was in 2005 that you saw societies being formed and like milk analyzers going to the villages. But now, what do you think? Like, what is the next step? Because I was scrolling LinkedIn a few minutes ago, and someone had posted about the adulteration in milk. It has a very negative connotation because like all of a sudden you negate all the hard work that has been put by different companies. It's like, what is the next step when you comes to the procurement and like ensuring good quality milk? What are the areas where we should put some emphasis on?
The milk, you can say, as a business for a farmer, for a company, etc., has, you can say, got more, you can say, knowledge of economics. As the time has progressed. The farmers also started understanding the economics, the cost of capital which is invested, the operating capital, and what is earning out of it. And that's why you see a lot of demonstrations also happening whenever the milk prices are suddenly dropped, etc. So this is good in the sense that the farmers understand what is the real input cost going into their business and what are they realizing into it. And when I see as a next step, etc., so earlier the milk was being treated as one of the side businesses by the farmers while they were doing a crops cultivation and other things. They were having 1 or 2 single cows, etc., and that milk was being transferred apart from their own usage to the nearest collection center. Now probably people are taking it as a full-time business, and lot of educated or younger people are also handling it. They are trying to, you can say, work on the best farm practices. They are taking help from the veterinarians. They are working on the principles of the cow shed, etc., managing a herd of cows, etc. The economies of scale has improved. They're using the facilities of veterinarians all around. The breed knowledge has also come in. The yield improvement through, you can say, breed management, artificial insemination, etc., has also come down, and probably people have become more educated. And these are the things where the knowledge has improved from the basic in the basic farmer on what is the input going into the cost of producing that milk. So once that comes in, that's one good thing, that he knows the value of his milk, and he knows that he is investing into a product which can be taken, or definitely he is sure that the quality is something for which he is investing.
Yeah.
Now comes the part of the buyers. The buyers also have been, you can say, trying to ensure the consistencies in supplies, eliminate the middlemen, and not live into an area of control and checks, rather than you can say getting assured, you can say, milk from a progressive farmer, you can call it. So these are the certain improvements which has happened, and that has also happened to solve the various issues on you can say microbial count of the milk, faster chilling, and taking better health checkups of their animals, etc. So it has impacted the quality. It has ensured a good quality to the organizations who are buying milk from the grassroots level, and this has also helped to improve the yields also. And as the, you can say, understanding of the profitability goes up and increases, I'm sure probably there will be more improvements into this procurement cycle.
Yeah. I think I completely agree with this, because there are two things. Also, I think like we need to work on our milk pricing mechanism, because so far we have two axes of fat and SNF, but I think there should be a third axis of hygiene and quality. Now, we have talked about on the farm. Now, let's talk about bringing the milk from the farmer to the plant. And here comes the transportation and logistics. And I think milk is pretty much more of a logistics heavy business. How we can ensure more sustainability while we are procuring the milk or bringing it to our plants. So what is the role of sustainability here? And how dairy can be more sustainable? Maybe that should be the question.
Right. When we talk about sustainability, normally people associate to the environment and keeping the planet green and other things. But for me, sustainability is two-pronged. One is first thing is that using the resources very, very judiciously and optimally. The second thing is that all these resources come at a cost.
Yeah.
And managing the cost aspect on each of the resources which you use, monitoring it and keeping it under the control. That's the primary goal of the organization. So by virtue of controlling the cost, they probably will be also helping to maintain the sustainability.
Yeah.
Now, when we talk about this, the procurement cycle, so it starts from the farm to the milk collection centers to the factories. So these three legs of, you can say, milk moving from one leg to other leg. So probably the best thing which would, you can say, optimize the cost is the yield. So if the yield is good from the farmers, then probably you are ensuring that your hauling per kilometer haulage, etc. is good. Per animal, you can say yield is high. So focus is on yield, right from the animal, right from the small transport vehicle which you are using from the village to your milk collection centers, and similarly from milk collection centers to the factory. So yield is something which you use. So the resources which you use, like land, your tanker, the small truck carrying the cans, etc. So if you improve on the yield, then you would have helped the sustainability by using the minimal resources and transporting or managing a higher quality quantity of milk. The second comes in water. So water is something which is very, very scrupulously used. We fortunately in Western UP had, or in Maharashtra also I've seen it, we have good source of water in most of the places. And there's very much, you can say, indiscriminate usage into the various cleaning processes and other activities. And probably the challenge lies into monitoring the liter of water used per kg of milk handled, etc. And we have started in some of the places, and there's a direct monitoring, and especially into the manufacturing plants. So that's a big KPI, and people have improved on how to judiciously use, recycle, and use it for, you can say, growing plants and other activities. So that's more effective from the collection centers to the factories. So the third part is that using the alternative energy sources, solar heaters, lights, and other things at your collection centers. And on the carbon footprint, you would be optimizing the transportation cost, the haulage per kilometer, or the diesel cost per kilometer, etc.
Yeah.
And I believe the modern procurement team are tracking all these KPIs.
Yeah.
They are trying to improve year on year, and there is always a scope. And the scope lies in first, the low-hanging fruits on, you can say, reducing the wastages.
Yeah.
The second is innovating and using the new technologies.
Yeah.
So as and when the new technology comes, they will be trying to implement and then roll out to the larger, you can say, milk procurement shed, so that this can be optimized. So I believe that the milk procurement team contributes a lot and has got a good role into sustainability, because they are, you can say, one of those common thread from the farmers to the factories.
Processing, yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's imagine I'm a young business or entrepreneur and I want to start a business, and let's say like I want to do it in Western UP or Eastern Uttar Pradesh. Procurement. What should I focus mostly on, like linkages to the farmer, or being able to transport that milk? Or would you even suggest like I can buy some milk from the aggregators? What would be your suggestion in that direction?
I've seen many businesses in UP and Maharashtra. Many of them have been old and running very well. There have been many new entrepreneurs also who have set up successful businesses over the period of time. And there have been many of the failed ones also. So there have been various units, etc. So as far as my knowledge can go, the key thing is that understanding the field. So although today's theory of fail fast doesn't say you have an idea and you run and then grab the moon. But point is that you have to deliberate on your idea. You have to make extensive plans, understand business, and then try to, you can say, execute your plans on the floor. So that's a theoretical thing. But when you talk about executing it, the first thing is that, as I said, the economics. And when you talk about the economics, first of all, the entrepreneur should be very sure about the scale he is wanting to have when he is setting up the business. So that's the first thing. The scale should be pre-decided, because when you talk about dairy is a very capex intensive industry. So you have to be very clear on what is the scale which we are trying to work upon, because as I've seen, most of the North Indian dairies are plagued by the capacity utilization. The plant utilization is hardly 35 to 40% because of the seasonality. You hardly use your plant between October to March. So rest of the time the plant is either dry or you're operating on the 1/3 of the capacity. The milk dries up, the buffalo dominated area and all those things. So probably the scale is a very, very important thing when you try to optimize the resources which you have invested, and try to leverage them and use them fully till the time you have a next level of scale into your pipeline. So first thing is understanding the scale. Second thing is understanding the deliverables. The quality thing, which is, you can say, your primary objective. Quality is something which is uncompromisable. And to set up a environment which is conscious about the quality, which is conscious about the product, and which is conscious about the deliverables, takes a lot of beating in terms of educating the entire supply chain, in terms of monitoring those checks, reviewing them, and improving. It takes almost a decade for a successful entrepreneur to translate from the grassroots level to the, you can say, end producer. So when we talk about a dairy business, yes, if you can start from the scratch, you can start from the milk procurement, be a successful milk procurement company, be a successful small producer of, you can say, certain milk products, then certainly at that time, once you saturate in terms of your capacity utilization, you set up bigger plants, etc., work on the scales. At that time, while your procurement setup is maturing, try to get up more filled in milks from the other sources like other dairies or
Yeah.
certain private, you can say operators, etc. But that will be a stopgap arrangement till the time you saturate and reach your optimum capacity utilization.
Yeah.
So the key here is utilize your resources, set up your vision in the sense that whatever you are investing gets utilized.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about the sales and other things because that's a fanciful and visual thing, and I don't have much, you can say,
Yeah. No,
experience
but
into it.
what you have mentioned is like very, very valuable. Like one thing that you mentioned about the capacity utilization, and actually that brings us to the third stop of our value chain. So we have covered processor, we have covered the transportation. Now coming to the plant, and you rightly mentioned like the capacity utilization of the plants, and a lot of people don't even talk about the seasonality. And I wonder that a lot of people don't understand there is a seasonality specifically in the buffalo belt, and it's a massive seasonality. So what strategies did you utilize during your tenure, specifically when you are in the north, to ensure that the capacities were utilized?
Probably, I think when we were operating there, we were an old setup. And when we talk about capacities, uh, apart from the capacity utilization, there's one theory of, you can say, making the most of the flush.
Yeah.
Making the most of the flush. So here the objective here is that the milk prices, although it has evened out more in the last 5 to 8 years, but when we talk about a decade back, I can see the milk prices were driven by the seasonality. The milk prices were, you can say, used to crash right from the onset of Diwali till Holi. So you can say on a ground level between Diwali to Holi, that's what the time when the processing plants used to optimize and take their processing to the largest or highest peak level. So the endeavor there was to make the most of the flush where the milk cost was lowest, and then try to get that stock last your lean season. So you can say the planning cycle was based on the shelf life of the material, how you plan your, you can say, operations, that your full year capacity is loaded on the flush months. I'll rephrase it. Your full year requirement is loaded on the flush months, and the shortfalls is spread out into the lean months. So that the cost of buying is, you can say, the least during the lean months, and you operate on that thing. So that's a good thing on the old, already depreciated plants and machineries. But that doesn't apply to the new setups. So there's a huge difference. If you have a capital which you have bought it on some certain interest and you are trying to work on that model, probably that will not hold good at this current juncture. And as in the present times, the milk prices also have not shown that type of movement. The flush are not that much of a low cost, and the leans are also not very costly. So there's a very less gradient in terms of the price movement across the lean and flush. The geographies have evened out. Maharashtra has a cow belt or South has a cow belt, have tried to replenish the liquid milk into the other part of the countries. So it's not that same, you can say, thing. So I'll still work on that theory of capacity utilization, because lean and flush thing has something which is of the past, and that also involves a lot of capital carrying cost, holding the inventories, etc., which makes the entrepreneur work more on the, you can say, finances rather than the core capability of running up a manufacturing organization.
Now we have talked about the capacity utilization. Now let's talk about the outlook. So you have been part of the dairy sector for such a long time. So we have already covered like what changes have you seen, but what do you think? How does the future of Indian dairy looks like? Let's talk about 2030. They're not very far, but very approachable. But what do you think? Like, how does the outlook looks like?
I believe when we talk about dairy, so there has been huge shift on the pre-COVID and the post-COVID times. So the consumers, you can say, behaviors toward the food has definitely changed, and probably more inclined toward the safe manufacturing practices, the better packaged products, and probably the good names who are producing it. So these are the three things normally people will be looking at, and they are willing to pay value to the whatever buying they are doing it. If there is you can say even the substantially higher cost, etc., probably to some extent people are willing to pay for that. That doesn't mean that the smaller player or the small startup, etc., doesn't have any role, but probably that is a guideline for them to work on those lines and then reach out to the customers while you can say inculcating all those things which the bigger players are doing it. Now, when we talk about the horizon on 2030, so as we grow up into that period, so value-added products probably are something which has to grow. The value-added means the people who are willing to pay more for the products which they want as something which is good for their daily lifestyle, health, etc. Like there's a lot of emphasis nowadays on A2 milk, a lot of emphasis on the slim milk, a lot of people going for yogurts, the packaged curds. So these are the safe, you can say, products which they are looking into. The safe, you can say, packaging like Tetra Packs and UST treated PET bottles and all those things in flavored milk, etc. coming in. So probably the process refinement is definitely a call of the day. So you have to improve the processes. We know in dairy you can pasteurize, you can sterilize, you can do UST treatment and all those things. They're all at the various scales of the businesses. But the consumers wants the best of it. So technically, you need to have the best of technology. And best of technology comes at a good cost. Your product should have a margin to bear that cost. So again, it comes down to the economics front. So you have to put up a balance. So you again want to have those products in your portfolio, which will be, you can say, managing the thrust on the cost. Like, for example, the normal dairies will be working on the regular pasteurized milk. You will be working on the paneer. You can be working on the loose polypack curds, skim milk powder, ghee, butter, and all those things, which are the Me Too type of products which everyone has. But again, that is all challenged by the commodity prices. So there's a very less differentiator on the margins. The margins is only the efficiencies of your operations. Margin now doesn't lie onto the cost. It's on the scale and efficiencies of your operations. So that's the one thing which people should understand. And the bucket of your portfolio should have a high margin products. Probably to some products which I can talk about is like yogurt, like certain flavored milks where you can demand more milk. You can have ice creams. There are certain products portfolio which you need to have and invest in that, where you have a gross profit more than, you can say, double digit. Almost everything has a double digit, but on a good 25 to 35%. That can be a beverage drink also. The powder drink market definitely works on the plus 20-25% of gross margins. So portfolio has to happen in a such that you have to handle the volumes, because the efficiency won't come in if you don't have the volumes. And you won't survive if you don't have the margins.
Makes
So
sense.
it's a tricky game, but there are good players who are able to do it. They have been continuously working on it, on how to do it. There's so many good examples, like how the paneer has transformed from the unregulated market to the manufactured and packaged market, the shelf life even exceeding 30 days into the cold chain, etc. And paneer has moved a lot to the south, into the
I think
north, and all those
that
things.
is so true. Like, I think paneer is a very good example of changing consumers' perspective towards dairy. It's an excellent example. Like how, as you already mentioned, like, so we can talk about like how it was a more of a North Indian product. I do remember when I was young, like we would hardly have paneer. So it was not like you would not eat every week. It was when you would have guest over or something like special has to be prepared. Then we would generally eat paneer. But now it's like it's an everyday consumable. and you generally have it at home because it's coming in a pouch. Earlier, you have to go to like corner shops, dairy shops to buy it. They would cut it. They would place it on a balance. Um, I think like we're coming at time, Ashutosh. Like I want to ask you two questions. If you have to give a suggestion to the current entrepreneurs or the dairy people who are running their business or who are or new entrants, what advice would you give to them? And the second question would be if you have to give advice to your younger self, what advice that would be?
I'll first talk about myself.
Sure.
So when I see about Ashutosh Bhadoria, so I had a good journey. I'll say that I've been, you can say, blessed with a lot of exposure early into the manufacturing before I moved into the procurement. So that gave me and before procurement, I have handled the planning cycle, etc. So I always knew the consequences and the impact on the of the procurement on the business. So that was something which was known to me before I plunged into that domain. So what I will say that probably understand the business. So understanding the organization where you are working in, the dynamics of that organization, you can say the percentage. If you are a procurement guy, what is your costs and it is contribution to your business thing. So that's one of the most important things. And I believe that the procurement person normally will work about their purchase price variances, the cost reductions and other things. But apart from these things, which are definitely required, probably you also have to look into the longer term of availability and ensuring a prolonged or you can say sustained availability of the materials. So, and that too at a reasonable cost, constantly looking for alternatives, ensuring that the partners which you have are, you can say, reliable and they are ready to go a long distance along with you. So when I talk about myself, when I say what is the learning which I would have said, that expose yourself to the as much of the business cycle which you can do at the possible younger age. And that helps you to grow faster in terms of knowing the things and taking all those decisions which at times you will have to take.
Yeah. And it also gives you perspective, like what are you part of? Like what part of, like which star you are in the universe actually, and how wide and high and long you can go in that particular organization. Very valuable, extremely valuable. Now your advice to the dairy entrepreneurs.
Dairy entrepreneurs, I think you can see that dairy is something which is interesting to all and many people. The number of startups which have come in, etc., and people are coming with good ideas. They're coming with a lot of, you can say, insights. I'll appreciate certain of them coming along with the online apps, deliveries, which are done at a minute, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Even in dairy also, they have a sustained cycle, or you can order on apps, etc. So I believe that technology is something which is a disruptor in this area. And for the entrepreneurs who are coming in, the basic dairy is a knowledge which they need to gain, and probably most of them are doing their homework while they plunge into it. Now the thing is that how do you disrupt that? So how do you disrupt is the technology. How do you disrupt is that ensuring that the quality is something which people won't find in the other products, etc. And you can say the promptness of supplies, working on the other aspects of supply chain like direct deliveries, ensuring the correct temperature of deliveries, ensuring that it gets in whenever you want it. So these are something you have to work on the mindset of what is the new consumer wanting it. Not today's customer won't line up at the booth at 6 a.m. to get milk. So he wants it when he returns from the office. Usko tabhi chahiye, subah bhi nahi chahiye usko.
So it's basically convenience and quality are the two nuggets that you should actually have in your business to.
So you have to see that be adaptive to the today's requirement, because things are changing very fast, and both at the, you can say, metro levels as well as the small towns level. And people are focusing more on their own businesses, more on their occupation, etc. And these commodities can be delivered to them conveniently. They don't want to do it on the weekends. Weekends is for enjoying. So you have to work on that thing. So how do you cater on following the basics and then disrupting the market by giving them something which the others won't be able to give you.
Yeah.
So this is what I will, you can say, want a new entrepreneurs to put their brain into it and crack it. Probably most of them are working into that lines, but as I said, the basics have to be there. You have to work on your capacity utilization. You have to work on your gross margins. Those have to be there on the ground. If that is not there, then probably you won't even survive. But the next thing is that to be successful, you also need to have how the consumer mindset is changing. Focus on 2 or 3 products or 4 products in the small, you can say, period of launch, and then gradually you can say expand.
Yeah, I think like what I understand from you is it's a massive market, it's a massive opportunity, but it's also a very complex puzzle or economic puzzle that you have to resolve before you actually enter this market. So with this, I would actually like to thank you, Ashutosh ji. Like it was a very valuable discussion, and I think our audience would love it. And I think like we are not even done with the discussion. I think there are a lot of points that we should discuss. Like whenever next we get together, I think like within a month or 2 months time, I would definitely love to have you join us and share more on the logistics part of this business, because I think that is one of the part that is extremely challenging. This is where a lot needs to be done, and also it becomes a hurdle because, for example, pricing of diesel or vehicle, labor, they are extremely tight here, and also the timing becomes very, very stringent. So with this, I would like to thank you for joining us for this dialogue, and we look forward to having you join us very soon. Thank you very much.
It was a great pleasure, Prashant. Thank you very much.